Welcome to the Unpacking Life podcast. In this podcast, we deep dive into topics that most people think about in their head but never say out loud. You know, the type of stuff that you Google but you hope that nobody sees. We openly discuss common problems, conflicts and grey areas in life in order to find solutions together. The goal is to hear different perspectives on these topics and gain further insight to take some tips, tricks and hacks to help us squeeze the most juice out of life. I'm your host, Theo Thompson, and my guest today again is Wesley Thomas. Now, today's topic is going to be a deep one. Well, it's always a deep one.
Deep.
Yeah.
How we like it.
So today's topic is all about, do you have real friends, and what is a real friend? What does it look like? I mean, today in today's day and age, we're kind of like really struggling to get our grips on what is true friendship.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about, like, we've got 1,000 friends on Instagram, 20,000 friends on Instagram, followers and things like that. And then also you've got the impact of COVID-19 and people being in isolation, locked away at home, not really having people to talk to physically in person or even on the phone, because most people just don't have the time nowadays, even though most people are at home doing nothing.
It's true, man.
So really, we want to deep dive into this topic and just give some like perspective from our point of view on what makes a true friendship, what we should be looking for within friendships, and how do we build healthy friendships. So what's your thoughts on friendship?
So the one, man, friendship, as I've got older, I've kind of looked at it more like family.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching something not so long ago. It was an artist talking about his friends, and what he said, and it resonated with me deep. He said, I haven't got friends, I've got brothers.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, and it resonated deep with me, you know what I mean? And I think that's true. I think the people that I'm around need to, it's not about give and take. I think it's more for a friendship is about making sure that someone's good, making sure that somebody's growth, you know what I mean? And not only just going out having a good time, because I've got friends that I have a good time with, but they're not necessarily the people that I'd go to if I got a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense.
It makes sense. So I think I've got different circles for different things.
Yeah.
But I know underneath that who my family are.
Yeah.
Who's checking on me to see if I'm good, if I've got an issue, who can I speak to, that kind of stuff, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that nicely brings us into the first topic. That's perfect. And this isn't scripted, by the way. This is just like off the cup. There's a couple of notes that I'm going to refer to just to make sure we're on track.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that we're hitting some, we're having a bit of structure rather than just rambling. But with this, one of the top things that I think is going to be, it's looking at your current circle of friends, your current bubbles of friends, because you've got different friends for different things.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you've got people that you speak to in the gym, you've got professional friends that you go to for professional advice, and when it comes to that kind of arena, you talk to them. But then you've got your training and personal training. You've got friends for different needs, really. But that's what's deep about the topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to think, would you ever mix like friends from different circles all together?
I wouldn't, like I've got quite a biggest group of friends that I'd probably go out with on a night out. If it comes to like doing a Bible study or doing something a little bit deep or creative, I wouldn't really necessarily bring them people into the mix. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not because I don't want to, I just don't think that that's the right environment, or they've never shown me to be that kind of, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's quite funny because I might have a drink with these people from time to time, and they might want to talk about deeper issues, and I know that they wouldn't necessarily talk to the other lads, but they talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect
sense.
But
I would never bring them outside of that circle.
Yeah.
Does that make, you know what I mean? So,
which brings us on to the first topic. It's literally all about having friends that you can celebrate good news with, but also friends that will listen to the bad news. So, when you're winning in life, when you do something well and you accomplish something new, or you hit a new goal or something like that, personally, I think it's important that they celebrate those wins with you.
100%.
And they're clapping and cheering when you're winning. But at the same time, when you're losing, they're there for you to support you and tell you what the real things are and help you through that process as well.
It's hard, man, because even now I'm still adjusting, and it hurts, to be honest, if I'm being really honest here, because I've got friends out there that, they see me, they speak to me. Because it's funny, I've got loads of friends, people on social media, But the real people that are angry around me, I never promote or shut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? But back to my point is, I could speak to these people regularly, which I do. And when it comes to me doing certain things, I never see that. And it kind of hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the kind of these people that will never bring up the issue with them. Because I don't know, just wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But
why not?
Good question. Why not? Because I suppose I don't want them to see that it's hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I suppose that's what it's back to my weaknesses. I don't want to show weakness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't like to leave yourself vulnerable.
Yeah. I don't. No, I don't. I think, but I often think, well, why didn't that person kind of just give me a clap or say, "Where's that sick?" Or I didn't really like that, but you know, fair play to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that kind of feedback. That's all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? And
But don't you think to have a healthy relationship, you have to let somebody know how you're feeling if they can't read it?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was having a conversation with my brother the other day, and I've got a friend I'll leave unnamed, but he often has financial problems.
Yeah.
So there's been many occasions, and I'm not trying to sit here trying to say I'm trying to help everybody out. 'Cause I'm not. But there's been many occasions where I've gone up there with food, money, make sure that he's all right and stuff. And there was this one time I picked him up, and he asked me to go drop him to the shop and to his mates. So I did. And he went into the shop, and he come out of the shop with a big bottle of vodka. I said, what are you doing with that? He said, it's for my mate. He's helped me out so many times that and at that point, I should have turned around, but I didn't. I thought, is that how it is?
So do you avoid conflict?
I don't even avoid it. I just think it's, I suppose I don't, only the real close people will see the good and the bad of me.
Yeah.
And I'll only confide into those people.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of blessed in the sense I've got people in my family that I can speak to.
Yeah.
If it's not my twin sister, it's my brother. If it's not my brother, it's my nan.
Yeah.
If it's not my nan, it's my grand. You know, so those kind of people will hear what's going on.
So that's when you will say how you feel.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But would you say you've got that relationship with your friends?
Not all of them, no.
Yeah.
And I suppose, and I've tried it. There's been times where I've said something a little bit deeper than the average.
Yeah.
And it's come back as they're not really ready to handle that.
Yeah.
Or I've never got much feedback back. So I thought, then I know what I can do and pitch it, who you can pitch that to.
So when it comes to friends, I'm assuming you're talking about men as well.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think that's an issue with men where, men are a bit more reserved in when it comes to deeper issues? They don't open up and they don't talk about feelings, or if they do feel vulnerable, they won't open that up because they feel, I don't know, like it's not a manly thing to do.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But if you're being true to yourself, everybody needs that.
Yeah.
Forget man and woman for a minute. It's a human thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm not scared to do that, but you have to pitch it to the right people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's no good you telling somebody something, a deep problem within yourself, to somebody who's going to go, all right, cool. And that's it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no feedback there. So I suppose it's knowing your audience.
It is.
Knowing who you can pitch that to.
Yeah.
And feeling comfortable doing that as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everybody's got different issues, and some people are not ready to face those. Let alone dealing with anybody else's stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
True.
Yeah. So it's about knowing your audience, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It is. Definitely. And what would you say about, like in that situation with your friend? Have you addressed that with him, or have you kind of left that?
I've just not spoke to him for a bit. You know what I mean?
Is that how you deal with it? You kind of distance yourself?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there are certain things I might say to him, like certain things that I might think at the time, but I feel like he just kind of just pushes it off as if it's Wes just having a little moan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then I'll leave it as that. But now I think I might bring it to an awareness in the right time next time it happens or something like that. But for now, I just let him just stew and do what he's doing.
Get ya.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which brings us on to the point number 2. It's weird how this is working out, actually. But point number 2 is literally, in my opinion, it's important to have friends that will challenge you, and they will pull you up and they will say the things that you need to hear rather than what you want to hear.
Perfect.
And like for me, like growing up personally, mine was my Aunt Viv. Mm-hmm. Like my Aunt Viv, like I said in the previous episode, is the person that when I talk to her, she's got no shame or qualms or anything about pulling me up and saying, nah, you're talking stupidness there. That isn't right. And she won't always come with that perspective of so brutally honest and blunt, but she's more or less, she will pull me up and say, nah, that isn't right. You need to work on this. Like, I think you should reevaluate this situation or this thing that you're doing or whatever it is. and she'll kind of pull me up, and that will kind of like challenge me. And sometimes, depending on the mood that I'm in, I'm more receptive, and sometimes I'm like more dismissive. It just depends on what I'm feeling at that time. But ultimately, I'll always, when I've got some time to sit down and really collect my thoughts, I'll always contemplate what people say, especially if I know the intent behind it. And I think that's the most important thing. If you understand that the intent behind your friend is just generally to help, and there's no like, you know, there's no bad minding, because some people can pretend to be your friend and really they don't want to see you win in life.
It's true.
Because like, it might be someone, I don't know, you come from the same background, you grew up together, or you've known each other since you was kids, and it's kind of like, well, if you're winning in life and they're not, they will see that as like there's something wrong with them, so they don't want you to win.
I think that, you know, I think that comes down to is purpose.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's on the path to their purpose and somebody else isn't, I don't think it's intention just to hate. It's just that to see that they're striving to do what they was born to do.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't know what they was born to do. And I'm not saying I do. I believe I'm currently on the path to doing that. But there's a lot of people that don't want to see you win for that reason. And I've had to kind of sit down and ask certain questions to myself as to why some people don't shout and scream when I'm, especially the people I'm close to. I don't really care about the general public, innit? But the people that I'm really close to or I speak to quite regularly, I ask myself, well, why are they like this? You know what I mean? And these are the questions that you ask. But going back to your point, I think you've got to have people around you who will challenge you. That's how growth. That's how growth is. If you're not challenged, you won't grow.
It's iron sharpens iron. Isn't it?
No, for me, I've got a really big emphasis on trying to grow as a person, as we spoke about last week. I think. I want to grow and be a whole person. Does that make sense? And dealing with things directly. You know what I mean? And it's good that you've got someone like your Aunt Viv, whereas mine's probably my sister. Even though sometimes we can be a little bit too blunt with each other. But she'll tell me exactly what I need to be known, to be said. And same with my brother. He'll do the same thing as well, but he'll do it in a very diplomatic way. So it makes me think and understand it. You know what I mean?
So each person will have a different approach.
I mean, and even my nan, I love my nan to bits because she'll tell me exactly what I need to hear, even if I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? She's almost like my mother in that sense. You know what I mean?
Do you think we seek out friends that we know will empathize with our situation? Like when we're going through something, say you've got a question about something, like you're asking someone's opinion on something. And someone's tendency is more to be a bit more relaxed towards a certain issue. Like, so say if you've got an issue with, like, I don't know, maybe it's a situation where you're struggling with work-life balance. And you know someone, a friend that's got a similar issue as well, or they've been through a similar issue. So you might seek them out for advice. But at the same time, if you know that their advice is, you know, like 100%, you need to drop that, forget that, and just focus on this. And you don't want to hear that internally. So you avoid them and then approach somebody else.
I think that plays a part in it. I think we seek out friends that we have commonalities with. You know, that makes sense. More than anything, that you can look in a person and think, I can relate to that person because of X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Not necessarily because they're going to challenge you. Because sometimes I know that, for example, yourself, I could get knowledge, sound knowledge and advice from you on certain issues. Do I always seek out for you? No, not necessarily. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? So I think that does play a part in it. You know what I mean?
But what do you think that is? Like certain things you'd come to me with and we'll talk, but certain things you won't.
I think, you know, when someone asks for advice, they already know the advice.
It's true.
I think they're doing it, you know.
It's just confirmation.
It's just confirmation, you know what I mean? And sometimes maybe I don't want to hear that. Maybe I want to hear the other reason why, you know what I mean? And that plays a part in it, you know what I mean?
So it almost does. You seek out the people that agree with your... And it's natural. I think everyone does.
I think so.
It is. And what do you think about, like, you know, when you've got friends that just simply don't challenge you, the yes men?
Growing away from them, you know, bro. I don't know if it's an epiphany, if you like, but over the last probably time, and suppose lockdowns had a reasoning behind it, but it's just, if someone's not bringing anything to the table other than just to have a good time, for me, I'm a little bit deeper than that. They've got to bring something else. I'm not saying it's about give and take, but it's like anything, sort of relationship, innit? You know what I mean? You give something to this table and somebody else gives something different.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But if they're not giving anything, there's no point. What's the point of you being there?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Which perfectly, again, brings us on to point number 3. So point number 3 literally is, do you have a give and give relationship or a give and take relationship with friends? And I mean, my personal opinion is you need to evaluate your friendships and look at, you know, are you always just giving value, rather than like, you know, someone being there for you when you need. Because often, a lot of the time, that's what happens with relationships. People get accustomed to you giving value and just giving and giving. So anytime that you hear from them, you know, you see your phone ring and it's a certain person, you know that they want something. Like, and a perfect test that, you know, always recommend to people to do. And I forgot who recommended it to me. Someone recommended it to me, but was basically, don't call anybody, any of your contacts at all. And within the next 5 days, see who contacts you. And is it a case of they're phoning you or contacting you because they want something and you have something for them, or they're contacting you for the fact to see how are you in general and to give value. Do you get me? And it kind of separates. Not saying that just because someone calls you that week, because they might be in need, and a one-off they might be actually like in need and they generally want you, which you be there for them. But in general, if you use this rule and use this test, it will kind of show you who's who.
I think so. I think my blessing and curse is I don't necessarily judge my friends. I've got friends from all different backgrounds, from whatever, music, there's drinking, whatever. And I know a lot of people are quite choosy and picky about who they let in the circle.
Yeah.
I'm
one of them.
I know you're one of them. So to a certain degree, I envy that, because I don't judge, and somebody could be on low on their ass, and I'd still be their friend. You know what I mean? And they'd know that. You know what I mean? I've got loads of friends like that. However, over a period of time, what I notice is they come to me when they want something. Yeah, I'll give them whatever they might need, whether that's money, advice, whatever, and they don't necessarily get that back. That not even money, but that level of I'm willing to help you. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's almost like coming and taking, and then I'll see you in the next couple of months, sort of thing. So for me, it's about not just about being around those people. I've had to just kind of limit those kind of people, if that makes sense, because it's what's the value? Yeah, what's the value in it? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's you can come and take what you want, but then you don't want to give anything back, or you don't want to listen to what I'm saying to you when it's not. You don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think that's the transparency, like in a friendship, is so important. I think that comes into it as well, because if it does feel like the situation where, you know, you're just helping and giving value, and now and then you'd like someone to say like, how you doing? Like, do you get me? Like, just a simple thing like that. Like, I think that makes a dramatic difference. And coming back to that point, I am picky with my circle, because, you know, it's not so much I look at it as if I'm not getting nothing, I don't want to be around them, but it's more to do with like their ambitions or their focus on life shouldn't be, oh, what can Theo do for me? Do you get me? Like that's kind of like how I shift it. Like, I don't mind, and most of the time I am the one that's giving the most value. And it's very rare, especially I don't know what it is. It might be because I'm used to speaking to older people, but it's very rare that I'll go to someone of my age for like advice. Do you get me? It's always the older men, you know, the ones with the grey hair that you normally go to.
They're the best people to speak to.
That's what I mean. Like, we sit down and we reason about things, but it's very rare that, like, you know, I'd go to someone like you, who I could class as a close friend, and I'd say like, you know, I don't know, like, I'm really struggling with this topic. Like, you get me? Like, it's very rarely that I'll come with that, because like he says, most of the time, for most issues, you know the answers. Yeah, you do. Do you get me? And I know that you're roundabout at the same point in life, because you're the same age. You've got a family, you've got a child, you've got a missus. Like, you're going through the same chapter in life that I am. So you're working it out at the same point that I am. Do you get me? Like, we're exactly at the same point. Whereas if you've got an older man that's like, you know, he's been through that. His child has gone from a toddler to like they're a teen and now they're in uni. He's been through that process. So he's going to have some advice in hindsight where he might look back and say, actually, you know what, I wish I did this differently. Maybe I can pass that on to him and let him know, like, look out for this error, look out for this. Like, definitely. Do you get me? Like,
that's why I often go to my nan and granddad, because it's that they're the people that they've been there and done it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying necessarily they've got the answer, but they're giving me their experience, and then I can draw from that. Does that make sense? Yeah. But back to what you were saying, I had this conversation with my sister the other day, because my sister's not all about herself, but she'll talk about herself a lot. Yeah. And for me, that does matter. Yeah. So I say to her, Racine, sometimes just ask the question, man. Like, how was your day? What are you doing? Yeah. And it just instantly just breaks things down, innit? You know what I mean? Yeah. And it makes them show. And I think it's in a book that I've read. I think, is it How You Influence Friends? Yeah. How you influence friends. Yeah. How to win friends and influence people. Show interest. Yeah. Show interest. And I'm not saying I'm doing it just to win friends. I'm just show interest. Yeah. It's so important. There is a framework to
to friendships.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Can imagine.
I definitely believe there's a framework because, I mean, there is elements where, you show an interest in people. There's that thing of conversations when you meet someone new. Like if you're stuck for conversation, ask them about themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
And people will willingly tell you most of the time.
I learned in sales, you shouldn't be the one that's doing the most speaking.
Yeah.
You should be the person that
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
just, I think that's how you win in life, innit?
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
And there's actually a book called The Go-Giver that's really good.
I've heard of it.
It's really good, but it teaches you the principle. It's a sales book ultimately, but it's not from a sales perspective. And it shows you how to win in loads of different areas in life, like not just professionally but personally as well. And it talks about like simple things like, like even a relationship is a sale. You're trying to convince a woman why she should spend the rest of her life with you. Do you get me? Like that's you trying to sell to them. Like if you're I don't know, in a relationship you don't like, or you're single and you're not getting that relationship, that's just simply because you're bad at sales.
Yeah.
Because you're not selling it to them.
And on top of everything else.
On top of everything else.
Yeah.
It isn't just that. But literally, Like, and I think it's important to really focus on giving rather than taking, and not keeping a score of what you're giving.
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
you know what
like
I mean?
yeah.
I'm generally. I feel like I'm generous. I could be wrong, but I feel like I'm generous anyway. So
yeah, you are generous.
Yeah, I don't think I'd keep account, but it'd be nice, to have that receptive relationship with people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So coming on to the next topic, the next tip, which is tip number 4, is workplace friends. Right, so workplace friends, we've all got people that we would consider friends in the workplace, and then we've got associates in the workplace. I think the difference between a friend and associate is, again, it comes down to, is that person professionally helping you or there to help you, or are they professionally there to take from you? And because you've got something to offer, or maybe you can make them look good, they're going to come to you from that perspective. And with an associate, it might be a situation where, someone's just coming to you to complain. A lot of the time, what often happens in work, from my experience, is people will complain about a situation, but they won't come with a solution. And that's a massive problem, because then it becomes a drain. Like, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people, they like to vent, and some people, that's their way of dealing with issues or problems or internal conflicts. They like to vent and unload, and there is a time where you just be silent and listen as a friend.
Yeah, definitely.
And I struggle with that, to be honest.
I think that what you're talking about that's an element in your relationship with your missus, or it's in every relationship. It's every relationship.
Yeah.
There's a time where you give advice, and there's a time where you just let them talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that will be helpful.
Yeah,
I struggle with it as well.
I do.
Because I think as men, we're naturally solution orientated.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah.
We're always trying to fix something.
Yeah.
So if a woman's coming to us with a problem, we're automatically looking to fix it.
Yeah.
But sometimes doesn't need to be fixed. She just wants to talk.
Exactly.
And it's not knowing the difference. And I've had to learn that over a long period of time. Really.
Yeah. I'm still learning it.
That's
one thing I'm struggling on, to be honest. It's one of those topics where, like, if someone says a solution, because you're entrepreneur minded, you're automatically thinking of the solution.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, have you tried this? Or what about this? And sometimes they don't want to hear that.
Yeah, they don't.
Right now, they just want to unload and move on.
My missus, she tells me all the time. She says, sometimes I'm trying to fix it all the time. She goes, I just want you to be my friend in this occasion. I just want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, right, cool. I've take that on board now. And it's knowing, and now that she said that, it's knowing and being aware of it, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's a major key, isn't it?
Yeah. For some reason, for workplace friendships, haven't really picked up many. And I sometimes I do, answer the question to myself is, why is that?
Yeah.
Do I only see it as it's just work, or, you know what I mean? So I don't necessarily have that problem. In terms of associates, I think my experience and age has kind of helped me to determine who is an associate and who is a friend.
Yeah.
And I think that you work that over time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By just analysing it.
But do you think that's because you only show a certain side of yourself? As a man going into a workplace, you only show the professional side, or do you show your personal side as well?
I'm very professional.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a hindrance, because I'd like to go in there and just be myself. I think we talked about this last time.
We did touch on it.
Yeah, I just want sometimes, and it's an annoyance for me, because I just want to go in there and be myself and let people know who I am.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll wait for people to show who they are before I show myself. Yeah. And I don't like that. But that's it could be part of the reason why that I don't pick up that friendship from work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in a case of workplace friends, how do you feel? How do you measure? How do you measure how good that relationship is? What would you see as like, you'd look at someone and say, yeah, I've got a good working relationship with them. I can trust them. I like them. I can speak about anything to them, and they won't go to the boss and say X, Y, Z. And like how would you gauge and measure that, whether you can trust someone or whether someone's real?
Just a rapport, bro. Because I've only come from surveying, so it's a construction. So most of the time, I'm pretty much the youngest one in the team.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah.
Most of them are the old grey back kind of geezers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I've had some really good relationships with those kind of people. As it goes back, and if you want some advice and stuff, and I normally tend to go to the older ones. But I just think it's about advice. Somebody comes to you and says, "Listen, I've seen you do this, but for an example, but I think you could probably do this in another way." And it's about you being teacher, because I think that we should always be teachable as people. You know what I mean? And it's just that's how I kind of view it. Anyway, it's about someone's intention.
Yeah.
It's intentions.
It's good to act as if it's good to assume that somebody else knows something that you don't.
Yeah.
Like I think that's I forgot where I heard that. But that literally, I try to live by that now. I didn't always, but now I try to live by that, because sometimes you can look at someone's personal situation or situation. They could be in a situation where maybe they don't see their kids, they don't see their other half as much, or that they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and it's like you don't kind of take advice from them, because you think, if you're lacking in that area, how can you give advice to me in this area?
So like, devil's advocate, if that was the scenario, would you be the person to give them that advice, or would you seek to understand why that person is the way they are?
Yeah,
because it works both ways.
Yeah, always. That's how I always start.
Yeah,
and that comes from 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Yeah,
seek to understand and then to be understood.
Yeah.
Do you get me? So first of all, you've got to look at, all right, and why is this person that way? And that's why I always reason with everything. Like, what made this person? What was their life story that made them the way that they are currently? Do you get me? And then I take that into account. If they've had some kind of traumatic event or events growing up, and I understand that and I'll find that out, then that's easy for me to emphasize with, because I can understand. But if there's nothing there and there's no reason why they're this way, then that's when I'm a bit like, nah, that isn't for me. Cut off. Like that. Do you get me? Like, that's how I kind of measure it. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong or what, but it works.
But how would you know that there's nothing there for them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's having those conversations, open conversation, because I'm quite an open book. Like, as in, like, when I meet people, I build quite good, solid relationships with people quickly, because I'm open and honest. Like, I'm transparent in the way that I am. Like, if I think something, I'm gonna let you know politely. And I'm very point blank. Like, but I think that's the best way to be, because otherwise you skirt around things. And often when you're open, people naturally want to open up themselves.
I was going to touch on that. And sometimes it's good to touch on an issue that you might be going through, for them to relate and them feel comfortable that they can open up to you.
Exactly. Because you've revealed something, and it shows that you're just being real.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to any relationship, because sometimes a lot of people, especially men, they don't open up with things. Like, they don't. And even if you've known them for years, and you've got a solid relationship with them, sometimes they still don't, because that's just their character type, isn't it? Like, some people are a bit more reserved, and it takes what I call a call to action in life, some kind of traumatic event or something that makes them think, I need to fix something here.
It's mad, bro, because I respect somebody much more, and I look at my circle of friends now, and in one way or another, they've revealed some kind of like problems that they're going through.
Yeah.
And I respect people more than people that walk through life but they've got it all cleared up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
And admittedly, that's probably made us closer as friends.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that makes perfect sense.
It's crazy, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is mad. It is mad. But what else do you think is important with that?
What, with friendship?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's in the Bible. It talks about how we should, and I'm not trying to throw out all these hypocrisies, if you like, but we should take on somebody else's problems. I think it says in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. If somebody knows, and hopefully the people that are close to me know that if anything's going down, they know that I'm by the side if they need me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's about that level of support.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know my friends that have got no real family to go to.
Yeah.
Or even up till the other day, some random guy who I've grew up with or I haven't spoke to for years just messaged me saying, "Can you lend me 20 quid?"
Yeah.
And I know she hasn't got much family around
Yeah.
her, so I instantly sent her the £20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's about taking on other people's issues, not to. And obviously, there's a line to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, just be more than just a friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, especially with social media, everyone's about themselves now.
Yeah.
And material. And honestly, bro, it winds me up, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because there's so much about shouting about themselves. They don't even recognise that the brother or the friend are going through some mad issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've had a couple of friends that have killed themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one, well, they've all hurt me, but you know that these people that I speak to that don't feel comfortable that they can speak to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
It's true.
And that kills me. That does.
It's true.
That kills me. You know what I mean?
To think what they must be feeling at that point in time when they do.
Yeah.
It is
mad,
crazy.
Man. It's mad, man.
And it is that true thing of you know, it's sometimes when you're in life, you're that focused and head down, grinding and putting in work that you don't look up.
Yeah.
And think like, how is someone doing? Like, and sometimes you can forget that, and it's important to. And like you said, it's a biblical aspect of, you know, you help others that are in no position to help or repay you back.
Yeah, man.
And sometimes you have to be in that situation, and always be there for people, which I encourage. But there's a fine line between being there for people and taking on too much.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people like to kind of wallow in their, you know,
self-pity.
Yeah. And victim mentality.
Yeah.
Like we know plenty of people like that, that can have that victim mentality of, you know, I can't do nothing because I'm from this area, or I look a certain way, or, you know, like they've always got that mindset, and no matter what you tell them,
it's confidence.
Yeah. It does. It comes down to confidence. And it comes down to also the conversations that they're having, like coming back to, you are the 5 friends that you hang around with most, always bringing it back to that point, because if you've got a circle of friends and, you know, murmuring in the case of like they're always complaining about something, and it's always like, oh, I've got this going on, I've got that going on, and everything's negative, glass is half empty, and all them kind of things. It's just gonna drain you. It's draining. I find it really draining. I can have it for a certain amount of times, but if every time I'm meeting someone or catching up with someone, it's like something like that, it's like I need energy when I leave. I feel drained, where really you should feel refreshed. Like, don't get me wrong, at traumatic times and events in people's lives, you should be there and you're going to naturally feel drained. But if it's every single engagement that you have, every time you sit down or catch up on the phone or whatever it is, then there's a problem. Like,
there's a big problem. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, when somebody's got their own issues to deal with.
Yeah.
And then just running from it. Like, I think as men, we have low tolerance to that kind of stuff. Well, I certainly do anyway.
Got less patience. I think women are a lot more patient than men. 100%. Like, women, I mean, Stacey's a lot more patient with certain things, whereas I'm a bit more blunt and more tolerant. And I find that as you get older, your tolerance goes worse. Like,
you think?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm trying to make it better.
Like 100%. I think it goes well. I end up like, you kind of view some things like a Victor Maldred. Like one foot in the grave. Like, it's like you do. I can see how people can grow old and bitter. Like I can see that. Like I'm not that bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, I can understand how when people get older and they've got these aches and pains, and then someone's coming to them with drama or something, it's like, I don't know why they're putting themselves through it. It's like, sometimes you know when you bump into old friends from back in the day, and it's like you catch up with them and they're telling you everything that's happened. It's like, it sounds like something off EastEnders or Coronation Street, and you're just like routine. You're just like, your life is boring compared to theirs, because there's no drama like that in my life.
I prefer it like that.
Do you get it? Yeah, it is better like that. But when you hear people's problems, it's like, it's simple solutions to these problems, and a lot of it's self-inflicted because it comes down to choices in life.
Yeah, of course.
What they prioritize and everything. Yeah, and that's why it's frustrating, because you can talk to someone, hear their problem, offer them a solution or offer them some help or guidance, or even just work with them through it, but they don't want to know that. They almost want to like use that as a justification of why they haven't progressed in life.
So how can you be around that though?
That's what I mean. Like,
but another question to that is then, old friends, like sometimes I find it a struggle to let those old friends go, even though I feel like I've outgrown them to a certain degree. Yeah, I feel like it's hard to let that friendship go. Yeah. Is that easier for you to do that?
Yeah, like I don't have a problem with that now.
You don't?
I used to.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem now, because especially when, like, since I've had a family, Your priority is your family. Like, trust. So if anything jeopardizes my family, like say, like we've both been around men that, like, you know, they don't live by that code of honor. Like, you're faithful. Like, we've both been around men that are like that. So we're around men that are like, you know, there's no off limits, and there's a certain degree of what I 100% believe that can corrupt your mindset and your behavior. Not to the point where, you know, someone could just simply say something and you'll go with it and follow their lead like a follower, but in the sense of slowly it erodes your perception.
Of course it does.
Because your reality is built up of your experiences, and if all your experiences is everybody's cheating, that's going to normalize that behavior. The same way if everybody's like, say Coke now is a normal drug, but I don't see it as a normal drug. I see it as a bad drug, and it's a controlling drug. But because it's so normalized, even in a business setting, to a personal like setting, to sports, like anything, it's normalized, then it kind of takes away the impact if you get involved with those activities. The same way like cheating, like people don't feel the impact. Like we both know people that would cheat and sleep sound at night, like and they go and kiss their child good night and all that like kind of thing. And
is that a social thing? Because is it socially?
I don't know. You know, I think it's a hard one, because I think it does depend on morals, but then again, people can come from any background, because that's a human desire. Like, if men are totally honest, men have to tame themselves.
100%.
Like, men do have to tame themselves, because it's a natural thing and desire for a man to see something beautiful and admire that something beautiful. Because
and let's not separate this, men and women.
Yeah.
It's women as well, because
women as well. Women, I think women are guilty of it as well, but I think it's more in men. I can't remember where I saw it, but it's like men are more visually stimulated. The saying is that I've heard. I can't remember.
It's true.
I think men is from, what is it? Men is from Venus. Is it men is from Venus? Men is from Mars, and women are from Venus.
I think it's his brain, her brain, because I think mentally, and it's interesting because I read that in there. I think visually men are easily susceptible in that sense, but mentally I think it's women. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Visually and
because I think because it's true, because I think for a woman to cheat, a woman has to be emotionally involved. Most of the time, a woman has to be emotionally attached to that man mentally, in order to cheat.
Yeah.
Whereas a man could cheat.
Not all women though.
Yeah, not all women. Not generalizing, but realistically, that if you're going off the normal archetype type of a woman and the character persona of a woman that is built up for, like, you know, default, then most women have to be emotionally attached to a man to cheat. But men, it could just be a physical attachment, but there's nothing emotional there.
It's harder, man. I think it's easier for a man to cheat than it is for a woman, isn't it?
Yeah.
But going back to that, I think that's why communication is key in relationships. Because if you're not communicating well, and say for example, your woman works in an office and she's connecting with one of her co-workers, she's more susceptible to if she's confiding in that person as well.
You know
what I mean? And I've only talked from experience in it. You know what I mean? Then it's easier for them to do that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. And sometimes I think women, because they're so sociable, women are naturally social first. I think women are built to be more sociable than men.
Definitely.
And women can see it's kind of naive to the point of they won't pick up when a man is trying to be more than a friend. Do you get me? They don't pick up on those little cues all the time, just because they don't know how men think. Like, even though someone could come across like a clean cut man, and he's very moral and very, like, he's all about family and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't mean that he can't have chinks in his armor where he feels.
I'm yet to meet a man that hasn't got chinks in his
armor.
I'm yet to.
Exactly.
But in that sense, it's quite hard though, because you could walk out your door and you might see 10 beautiful women that are all leering yourself on. Then what is, other than self-control, what is a way for you to kind of remedy that, if that makes sense? Because let's talk about the psychological side of that. If a man has been brought up in a single parent household with only his mum, he hasn't, and he's not necessarily seen how a man is supposed to love a woman and conduct himself, then he's going to be more susceptible to that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
And I do think it's like, it's almost like, I do believe that you pick up certain traits from your father.
Yeah, definitely.
Like my dad was my biological dad was a womanizer. Like,
so was mine.
Like 100%.
I've got 13 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, you got a whole team, bro.
Yeah, I mean, so I've had to really fight some demons, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You do.
You know what I mean. What's been passed on from my dad, and and still fighting to the point. You know what I mean.
That's what I mean.
So,
and the measure of a man when you're growing up, has always been shown as like a measure of a man is the man that attracts the women or that can fight. Like it's one or the other. Like they say I'm not a fighter or a lover. That's what most people say. Like they always put themselves in one category. But realistically, most people are aiming for both.
You reckon?
Do you get me? Yeah. Like then. Well, it depends because you got alpha. I believe there's alpha males and beta males.
Yeah, definitely.
And 100%. I forgot where I read that, but there is definitely. If you watch the social dynamics of
100%.
groups, there's always an alpha male and there's always a beta male.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah. And normally the Mr. Nice guys are the ones that compromise, overly compromise, and they're yes men in the relationship, and they just go along with everything the woman says. They don't challenge anything because they want everyone to get along, and they avoid confrontation. And there's actually a guy. Got his name, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And he actually talks about the impact that it has on men, and men not dealing with confrontation and not confronting, certain issues that they've got within a relationship and them suppressing it and being yes men. That has an internal effect on them. And that's when you normally hear, men have an argument with something, all of a sudden they snap and they go and crash a car or go start a fight, and they do something out of character that isn't normally them because it's a build up, and the little thing that tipped them over the edge it's just a minor thing, but it's because they've had so much pent up in them over time.
And it's a flip side, isn't it? Because an alpha male, then he'll attract all the women.
Yeah,
all the women will see that he's an alpha male. Then he's got that fight to deal with.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
it's conflicting either way. And it is like that thing, like when the silverback's out in the jungle and he's got a pick of all the women, and all the women, like it's like if he sees another male going through one of his women within the pack, he's protective of that. And I think we're not like animals. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're like animals, but I think the social hierarchy that we have, in the sense of, there's an alpha and a beta, I think that's very real. And I think that's something that's often not even addressed, especially within the workplace. It's like it's not even recognized. They think just because someone holds a title of a manager, that they think a beta manager can manage an alpha male. That isn't going to happen. If that person that's being managed by a manager doesn't look up to that person as an alpha, then he's not going to be led, because it's like, it's wolves in the wild. How are you going to take leadership from someone that isn't doing what they expect you to do, and they're not capable of doing that?
You know what this comes down to, though, bro? I think it's it's like the Matrix. You get given a pill.
Yeah.
So say if you get given a pill, and one of those pills is to wake up and be self-aware and stuff. You can be as self-aware as you like, but then that will just lead to be a conflict. And
it does.
Because you woke up and not everybody's awake.
Yeah.
So it's going to lead to frustration, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like sometimes it can lead to frustration because a lot of people they're living lives that are full of distractions, so they're not even asking these questions. And this is one of the reasons why we started this in the first place, like because a lot of people aren't asking these questions, and they're kind of like the elephants in the room. Like it's there, and you can plainly see, like in every interaction and engagement with another human being, some of the elements that we're talking about is coming into place, but it's almost like people don't address it or read up about it or take opinions. They go off their experiences, make a judgment, and they stop there. And that's what they're fixed with for the rest of their life. But
sad, really.
It is
sad, man. But
some things you really need to look to the experts. This is why, like, we do read and we learn from people that specialize in these areas. Like, I think the sociology and psychology and marketing and storytelling are all tied together. Massively, because ultimately everyone's life is a story, and everyone's perspective is made up of your life story and the events that happen within your life. And often when people sit down with a psychologist, they review your life with you, they listen to you and see what events in your life had the deepest of impact to make you the way that you are today, in hopes that they can fix those problems or kind of make you a bit more well-rounded and deal with certain issues. Because if those issues are like not dealt with often, we can impact that on those around us, the loved ones, but we can also pass it on to our children if you don't deal with them.
And just a shout out on that one, big up to anybody who goes and see a psychologist, because that can open up a whole can of worms. And I rate anybody that can do that.
I believe everyone needs some form of counselling, because life is hard, life ain't easy, and everyone, even though some people, they come from cushy backgrounds, and some people have been spoon fed from birth, but it doesn't mean that those people still don't have a hard reality, because to them, the end of the world might be that they can't afford them Louis Vuitton trainers that might be a real hardship mentally for them, and that's the hardest thing that they've known because that's all they've really had to deal with. So to them, it's they built up that reality in their head, so it's a hard take, and sometimes they need truth, and that's first world problems.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah,
It's not real. I wouldn't consider that as real problems, but it doesn't mean that you don't treat someone as if it is a real problem. You still empathize with them to a degree and try and help them work it out. But realistically, you got to be realistic.
Well, realistically, there's probably things that you probably couldn't relate to with that person.
Yeah, I couldn't.
You know what I mean? For example, like they don't. You probably thinking, well, they don't really know hardship. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I mean,
because sometimes you can look at it like those problems are like minor problems. Like you can, but to them, in their world, in their head, it's a serious, like, you know, almost not that bad as in say suicidal, but they think it's the end of the world, like if they can't get a certain thing or do a certain thing.
So what do you think then? Because let's be honest, that kind of person that we're talking about clearly haven't got somebody in their family that can tell them, who's telling them the truth or how it is, and they probably haven't got friends around like that. So if somebody is in that situation, and how do you feel like they seek out a person for that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Away from psychologists and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're looking at it. They've got the friendship base isn't necessarily the one that they can feel that they can confide in or talk some truth to.
Yeah.
So how do you think that people can kind of look for that?
I feel
signals, because everything's signals, and
we
send out signals. I mean, every day. You know what I mean?
I think in that situation, I mean, when we're talking about that specific situation where someone can't afford something or can't buy something that they want, and it's fashionable, it's not a need. It's like they see it as a need, but really it should be a want. Do you get me? And because they see it as the end of the world, and no one's really telling them, like, you know, snap out of it. A lot of people like that. They do have yes people around them.
Yeah.
And definitely. That's the problem. Like, that so many people have yes people around them that are just agreeing because they think that's what a real friend is. And normally people are drawn to people that agree with their point of view. Like, we pick people, friends, based on
commonalities.
Have they got the same beliefs as us?
Yeah.
Do they stand for what we stand for? And like, we're in that age in social media where, you know, if you see someone post something and you don't like it, they unfriend them. But what that's building is a network of people that everyone agrees with you, so you can never look from another person's perspective, and then your reality is only that way inclined, and that can create problems because it's a distorted reality. It's not realistic.
Of course it is.
And I mean, there's that documentary, what's it called, Social Dilemma.
Yeah, I watched that.
And it's deep, isn't it? And
deep,
I mean, that shows how basically Facebook, Instagram, all these social platforms, they use algorithms in order to show you content that agrees with your current beliefs, because it will keep you on the platform for longer, which equals them making more money in the long term because they want to keep you on the platform for longer.
But equally dumbs you down.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because there's no opposing views.
Yeah.
And they think that it's, you know, it's the be all and end all. That's why there's right and left, and the right is going more right and the left is going more left, and they're getting pulled. But realistically, most people fall, when you narrow it down, in between. But because everything on their newsfeed is like on the left side, and when someone drops something that's right, it's like, how could you do this? It's outrage.
It's because wars, that is, bro.
Exactly.
It's deep, man. If you haven't seen it, I beg you go and see it. Social Dilemma on Netflix, I believe. It's causing wars, man. You know what I mean? But I kind of hear where you're coming from in that certain sense. But how does somebody that's an issue. That's one issue. Yeah. Well, how does somebody seek friendship that's just not going to oppose or not going to just agree with what they want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think sometimes it comes to a case of you need to sit down and have an honest conversation with current friends. And if they're not receptive to it and nothing changes, then you need to move.
Yeah.
Or keep them at a distance.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a situation where you need to make new friends. And in this day and age, to be honest, it is hard to make new friends.
Hard.
It is, like, because you meet people through professional settings. And sometimes, like, I've made a lot of friends that now I would consider friends through professional settings.
Yeah.
But those friends that I made through professional settings, they're not from my social background at all. They haven't seen or heard or been around the things that I've been around. So you only click to a certain degree.
Professional.
And sometimes, I mean, the odd one, they might understand you even though they've never seen anything or done anything or been in those situations you have been. But they might get it because they're just a person that's in tune.
Yeah.
And they get things, and they can easily put themselves in somebody else's perspective. But some people they can't, like realistically, like that's why a lot of people conflict over different things because they're not able to think from the other person's point of view. Do you get me? And I think men and women, I think that's why men and women clash on certain topics, because men and women fundamentally, I believe, are designed totally different. So therefore they think totally different. So they're going to come to different solutions to certain problems.
It's one of them though, because I think individually, yes, differences is good.
Yeah.
Too much of a difference isn't good.
No.
You know what I mean? Exactly. It's hard to come because you got to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So if someone's here and someone's here and they're not willing to meet in the middle, it's difficult. You know what I mean? Okay, I suppose then the question from that is, then how do you think that we can be better friends?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think you can be better friends by communication, number one.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
I think so, yeah.
Setting expectations. And often friends fall out when expectations are not met. Like if someone doesn't meet the expectation that you have of that person, often that's where fallouts happen. But the other person might not even know these expectations that you've set mentally in your head without addressing it to them.
I read something, maybe biblically, but it said that we shouldn't hold expectations. Do you think that that's a good way of going? Because the minute you set an expectation for a friendship, for example, relationship might be a little bit different, but a friendship, should there be expectations?
I think to a degree, yeah.
You think?
Like simple things like you should expect someone to be there for you when you need. That's an expectation that's
Unwritten
kind of
law.
Yeah. Like that's a friendship expectation. Yeah. Another expectation is you expect loyalty and trust. What I say to you privately, I don't expect to go anywhere else.
Yeah, true.
Like there's those kind of expectations. Do you get me?
Yeah.
There's an expectation of, I don't know, say if I call you and I really need you, I should have to book in a time.
Yeah.
I should be able to call you, and no matter what's going on, you'll be like, yeah, give me 5 minutes, I'll ring you back, or an hour, or let me ring you back later.
Yeah.
Do you get me? It should be within that same day. It shouldn't be like I'm hunting you down, ringing off your phone, and you're blocking my phone, and like, do you get me? Like all that kind of. Then it's really not. It feels like you're chasing.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Like, and that can build barriers, because my expectation was like, whoa, I thought we was tight.
And
do you get me? Like,
it's imagine, because I was watching this documentary just to I don't want to cut you up.
Yeah.
And it's most people, and probably these people as well.
Yeah.
We spend our life chasing.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it.
It's true.
You spend your life chasing friendships, jobs. You know what I mean? And it's like it was about true friendship actually.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing that as well.
What book's that? Sorry.
It was a documentary, a little small one. It was on Instagram. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It was really good, man. But it's making you aware that most of the time, I think what had happened is this woman had a car accident and she was in hospital. She was trying to ring for her friends to see that, you know, and none of them were really even, they weren't even appreciating that she was in trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because 9 times out of 10, she spent most of her life chasing these people. So they weren't even friends in the first place.
Yeah.
But she thought that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's in those dying times where you go through really hardship that you realise who your friends are. Yeah. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I was in hospital, just funny enough, over the first lockdown, through various reasons and whatnot. And it brought to life for me who my friends are, because I didn't open up to anybody. Yeah. But those people contacted me out of their own will, and then I laid on that I was in hospital, and then that's how they know. I shouldn't need to chase people for that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It's true. They should be there.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah. So through the hard times, even though it was hard, I learned some valuable lessons. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Through that about friendship. You know what I mean? So.
But at the same time, I see your point where, you know, there's certain things you have expectations of friends. Yeah. But certain things you shouldn't.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does make sense because it's almost like your expectations are based on what you would do, like often, and that's how we look at things. Whereas everyone's not like us.
It's the worst thing you could do, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you expect even in relationships, you expect certain things from your partner, but they're just different people. Just different people. You know what I mean? So you're setting yourself up to fall in a certain sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or you get mad because somebody didn't do this, but you would have done.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, what are you putting yourself through? So my question is, should we have those expectations?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you should, in certain aspects, like fundamentals, like key things, like when you're in a relationship, when you're in a marriage, the expectation is the other person doesn't cheat.
I think there's
there's those universal ones which are them
unwritten rules. Yeah.
But then you've got the other ones, like say, like you expect the other person to be as ambitious as you. I don't think that should be, but I did used to.
Yeah.
Do you get me? I did used to have that expectation, especially within marriage. You have that expectation of someone should be like you and as clear focused on purpose and ambition and driven. where realistically they're not like that. Their skill set is in other areas. It might be that they're more skilled with people or parenting or whatever it is. You're meant to have attributes in a relationship, I believe, that you complement each other rather than having the same attributes. Because you could have a relationship with someone that's ambitious just like you, but that means that nobody wants to really look after the child full time because the other person's thinking about chasing that dream. And if anything, yeah, they have the relationship with the child, but they might neglect certain areas because they're going into the ambitious areas of life.
Yeah,
Do you get me? And they're focusing on that.
I definitely hear it, to be honest. I think growing up as a kid, I used to get really frustrated with my friends because I used to think to myself, why are these people not the same as me?
Yeah.
Or I want to do music. Why haven't I got a friend that's like as ambitious or driven to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I used to frustrate myself. And then over time and over years, I quickly found out that actually I can't have these expectations. This is my drive. It's a bit like what Gary Vee says. You've got a business. Your employee shouldn't be as ambitious as you. You're the driving force of this business.
Yeah.
So it's your thing, and the same thing principle for friendships as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
I like to learn that along.
Definitely, like 100%. So, coming on to the next point, which is point number 5. I believe 100% that when someone's a good friend, you could go like 6 months without seeing that friend.
Yeah.
But when you see that friend, you connect with them instantly.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's an instant connect.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like you picked up straight where you left off. There's no need for small talk and all that awkwardness or anything like that. Or there's no sense of like, you haven't spoke to them for 6 months, so now they're a bit of away with you. There's a bit of there's something there. Do you know what I mean? Like where they feel like maybe you've disrespected them or dissed them by not being in touch. There shouldn't be that. It should just be like automatically your friends. You both understand life happens, but you're still there for each other when you need. Like I think that's an important factor.
I think that comes down to respect.
Yeah.
Especially now because we've got most people that I know. Well, say most. A lot of people that I know have got families, so you don't expect them to be on your phone every week. They've got their own families to take care of, plus work, plus other family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a respect thing. More than anything. Maybe when we was a bit younger, then maybe. Yeah. Ultimately, I think it comes down to respect. Yeah. And respecting each other and each other's boundaries, innit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I can really add on that one.
Yeah. It's a basic one, really, isn't it? But it's good. It's a good one to understand because often it's overlooked, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's it. So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
The next step is the next tip. Really, I believe is important is humor. Yeah. Like humor is vital. Like humor can cut through some situations. Like you can be talking about a serious issue that you might even want to break down about, but that humor just lightens the mood, and like it helps you to understand each other on a deeper level. And I think humor has a way. Comedy is an amazing thing. And I was watching a documentary actually the other day with Stacey, and I was watching Kevin Hart's documentary where it's talking about his life. Yeah. But it shows you what his life is actually like his relationships with different people within his life. And his work ethic, he's got a crazy work ethic. Yeah. But also it shows all his friends have a similar humor. Do you get me? Like all his friends around him, like he's got a select group of friends. I think it's 5-6 men, similar backgrounds that all grew up together and everything. But all of them have got a place within his like business. One of them's a brand manager. One of them does his trims his hair.
I love seeing that.
And like all that, like, and they grew up together. It's a good documentary.
I love seeing that stuff.
And
I think that's missing nowadays.
Yeah, it is 100%. Because often when people come up and they make it, they get rid of the old friends.
Either that, but and it's the sad thing because I was asking the question to I was speaking to, it might have been my brother actually, and I often ask myself these questions. It's like, look how many people that I've grown up with, and it's only I speak to about 1 or 2 people. And I understand that everyone's got different interests and what and they spun off in life and stuff, but it's sad that the people that I grew up with don't necessarily not say want to see me win. They're not clapping. They don't care. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think that's missing.
Yeah.
Massively, you know what I mean?
It is definitely.
It's missing massively, and I don't know the reason why, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time when you come from the same area or the same similar background or the same story, and you was given the same opportunities as them, you're given the same 24 hours as them, and they see you winning, it's a reflection on them. It shines light on their lack of either work ethic or emotional intelligence. Because it's down to one of those why people don't succeed, isn't it? It's like emotional intelligence is simply like, something happens in life and you emotionally react to that thing in life. Now you can react and make that worse, like, or you can react, learn a lesson and keep it moving. Do you get me? Like it's one or the other. You're going to do one of the, most people, not even most, but some people, especially from our background, the emotional intelligence is low. Like one of the things I've noticed is people aren't consistent because they're emotional. Like if you say to people, I don't know, it could be anything, like they've got a goal in life and they want to get to somewhere, that consistency is the key to getting 100%. to that location. Yeah. Right. They start something, but they never finish. And that's just because life happens. They get emotional and they think, I don't feel like it today, so I'm not going to do it. Like, and they don't do it. Like I didn't feel like doing this podcast today. I had a late night last night working. So like I didn't feel like doing it, but the consistency in me is like, nah, I've got to do it because I said I would do it. I'm doing what I said I would do. And a lot of the time people don't do what they say they would do. And that's the problem. That's what stops them.
See, so what you're talking about is internal drive. Well, the question is actually, so that's internal drive what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or do you think that purpose has got a part in it? Because, you know what I mean? Because the drive is there, but you could be driving to nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
So do you think that people are quite envious of somebody's purpose?
Yeah.
Or what they think that somebody's purpose is?
Yeah. If they look to see that, I think if they look to see that you find something in life that brings you alive, you're enjoying it, you're enjoying your job, you don't even see it as work.
Yeah.
Like if they see that and they're going to a job that they hate, that every day they wish they could do something different, and they're seeing you doing something different, and it seems like, the scroll on Instagram and see you living life, they see your best bits.
Yeah.
They see your best bits in life. So automatically it's going to breed hate. It's going to, because some people are just naturally like that. It's like, I don't know, it's a weird one because I very rarely see people in person that I used to chill with, because mine and their path don't cross.
Yeah, and that happens.
Yeah.
And naturally, that's naturally going to happen.
Yeah, the only time that you really see people from that you used to speak to is either funerals or weddings.
It's truth,
like that's it. Like apart from that, or parties as well. But apart from that, you bump into people, you catch up. Oh, what you up to? You tell them what you're up to, and it's like you can see a bit of like, they're not really fully happy for you. Whereas some people you meet and they'll be happy for you. Oh, well done, congrats. Like, and you'll do the same for them, like whatever they're doing. And even if they're not doing something that they want to be doing, you pull a positive spin out of it, like, because the journey isn't done yet. Do you get me? You still got plenty of room to turn things around and do what you really want to do.
Trust me.
And even situations where, we've bumped into people and it's like they've split up from their partner, they don't see their kids, like, and like all that kind of situation. It's like, you encourage them and say, oh, all right, and that's your situation now, but it doesn't have to end like that.
And you know me, bro, the frustration I've had to go through is to see my daughter. So,
well, yeah,
I can't tolerate that talk.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Especially if they live 10 minutes around the corner. You know what I mean? It's about you changing your approach, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like, you could have said the same thing with your situation originally, but like, look, like that situation happened and you're putting in the work. You're driving like 5 hours or however many hours you're driving every time to pick up your daughter. Whereas really, most men, they wouldn't have the character to do that. Did you get me? They'd fold and make up an excuse. Oh, it's money. I haven't got the money right now to drive up and down there every such and such. Or they'd make up some excuse. Or they'll even say, oh, my woman won't let me.
Yeah.
That's the classic one. That's the classic one. My woman won't let me. And it's just, it's mad, isn't it? That's a different in character. That's where your character and their character is different. You both could have the same situation, but you chose to deal with it a different way, whereas another person might deal with it emotionally and think, nah, forget that. Let's self-medicate and drink a bit more, smoke a bit more, do something a bit more, forget that pain, where really it's probably burning them, but they're just not addressing it.
I don't know, man. I know it's life, bro, but sometimes it burns me, because I can meet a stranger that's got more happiness and want me to achieve than an old friend that I've grew up with. We've come from the same place.
It's true.
You've known my story. It burns me sometimes, bro. You know what I mean? Because I think, well, what is that? I know, and as I said, I know people go on different paths and stuff, but there should be that desire for everybody to win. You know what I mean? And
should.
You know what I mean? And
naturally.
I think that's vanishing slowly.
Yeah.
Or it's.
But why do you think that is?
I think if I'm really honest, I think certain actions I think are down to seeing somebody else's purpose. They're doing theirs. Like, I could I could see a lot of people from school that have made it now, but doesn't mean necessarily that we're not going to make it. But they see that as, yeah, well, they're on their path, or you know what I mean. And hate for whatever it's coming from, an insecurity, not hate, insecurity. That this person's doing that, they're living their best life, as you say.
Yeah.
And I'm here doing this, and we've come from the same place. He's got a lucky break. Bare excuses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and we need to, as people, grow whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We need to work out what our issues are, and you know what I mean? Because it's sad. I love seeing that. You know how Kevin Hart, he's employed his friends.
Yeah.
From, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's the goal, bro. Like,
that's a beautiful thing.
You bring people up in it, but
that's a beautiful thing, bro.
That's the thing. It's like, but at the same time, you got that thing of crabs in a barrel. Like, you've got that mindset of you can come from a certain area, you're trying to come up, and everyone's trying to pull you down and keep you there. Yeah. And like
hood mentality.
Exactly. It is a hood mentality, and it's that mentality of, you know, you could have friends where you're doing something that's like possibly self-destructive, and they don't pull you up and say, look, I don't think you should be doing that, you know, which comes back to the other point that we made earlier of friends saying what you need to hear. Like, sometimes you need a friend to say, you know what, that's self-destructive, you shouldn't be doing that, you should do this. Do you get me? Like, and it's having those around you, but often people avoid friends like that, and they seek out friends that they know are going to agree with these self-destructive patterns, which this is why I say, like, certain friends you need to lock off, because you can easily be influenced. Like,
100%.
Sometimes when I used to catch up with old friends, it's like you bump into them or they bow you, and they'd catch up, you'd talk and whatever. They'd be like, oh, what's the motive this weekend? What you want? Do you get me? And I'm like, yo, I'm spending time with family. What you want? Like, oh, I'm trying to focus on this, or I've got this that I want to do, and I'm not just looking to have fun. Yeah, you do have fun in life, don't get me wrong, but if all you're thinking is fun before your priorities, then...
So I think that leads back to, do you think that too many people, friends included, are trying to seek escapism?
Yeah, 100%.
The whole life is escapism.
100%. I think there's too many grown boys.
You think?
That's the best way to put it. There's too many grown boys that could be 30 plus, and they're not mature enough to admit they're not taking responsibility of their life and those around them. I think that's the most important thing. You know, like, I mean, I like to game now and then, but after I've got everything done. But I know a lot of people that game 24/7 and they haven't got all their things done that they need to. There's priorities in.
It's interesting, you know. I'm reading this book about being a father, to boys and girls, and one thing it touches on is, like, it says there's too many people. Well, there's three things that men like, that men are driven by: romance, action, and purpose.
Yeah.
And what he was saying is saying that most men these days are seeking this through TV screen, romance through porn, action and purpose through a computer game. No, they're sitting there, and because they're achieving on the computer game, they're not doing it in real life. And it's interesting when you say it, because you think, actually, you're right there. I look now, like this PS5 thing that's dropped. Look, loads of people have been out there buying this PS5, like, yo, I've done it. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
And I'm like, sometimes I'm sitting there, cynical me. It's like, well, what's that achieve?
Exactly.
You're gonna lose time in that one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the reason why I haven't bought it. Because I'll just sit there and I'll waste time on it instead of doing things that I need to do.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. And that's a big point that you made, because the PS5 and the Xbox that's just come out, like, people are paying like way above more than what they need to, because it's rare and like it's hard to get. But this shows you how people don't break down what's a want and what's a need. Do you get me? I bet they've got plenty of needs, real needs that they have, but they'll overlook that for the want. And it is coming back to that thing. Seth Godin, who's like the godfather of marketing. Companies understand this, and they understand that if you can market your products or services to appeal to people's wants rather than their needs, the want is always going to win every single time. If someone's giving £100 and you're saying, like, there's your wants, there's your needs, which one are you going to buy? They're going to spend it on the wants all the time. I feel your escapism. But don't get me wrong, everyone's got an escapism somewhere along the line, innit? Because I do think a certain amount of escapism is healthy. Because you need it. Like, sports could be seen as escapism. Like, I know for a fact my kind of outlet and escapism is training. Like, that for me, like, I unload if I'm stressed or I've got any type of, you know, you just want to unload. It's training. I go on the punch bag or I train. Or I go for a run.
I love football. When I'm on the pitch, like, all my troubles have just vanished. You know what I mean? I love football like that. Innit? You know, so
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
so
it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got escapisms as well, but then would you say you've got negative escapisms?
Yeah. Sitting on the computer till 3 o'clock. And I'm saying this.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got an Xbox. It's an old Xbox. I don't really care, but I use that when I'm not doing much of an evening.
Yeah, yeah.
So most of the time, I'm working on the computer screen. If it's not making music, it's doing certain things, project managing or whatever. So 9 times out of 10, I'll sit on the computer. So sitting on the computer till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I don't know, wasting time listening. I listen to a lot of music, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that could be seen as an escapism.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean, I like to party still. I don't think I'm old enough to not party.
Yeah, yeah.
So I might go to a party from time to time.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So I've got loads of them. If I really wanted to focus on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's about managing that. So my missus come to me. She said, "I want to buy you a PS5," and I said, "Nah. Number one, it's the money. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't justify you spending £500 or whatever on a computer. Nah, just leave it, man. I'd rather you put put it aside or save it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And number two, it's just gonna waste my time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna sit there on the computer, wasting my time when I could do other things.
That's what I mean.
So I'm like, nah, don't buy it.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
It is a tough one, isn't it?
It is.
Mm. And I mean, another point that we ain't really kind of touched on is it's having a similar kind of life experiences and lifestyle. I mean, coming from the background where we come from, it's not a private school type of background.
Yeah.
And it's a normal school, and we're around people that go through experiences a lot of the time in the early stages of life that are traumatic.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that we've come across someone that, they've had not a picture perfect upbringing, but like they've had a comfortable, well-rounded upbringing, as in like there's no major traumatic events that have happened within their life.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we come across that. But when we meet someone in a professional setting, often they are from a total different social background to us. And especially like when you look at church, if you go to church, like things like that, a lot of the time people that you find in churches, not all the time, but a lot of the time it's from, comfortable backgrounds. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that they've come from a raw, like, they've been doing badness or they've been around badness, or do you get me? Like, so it's
mad, Karen, that's
yeah. How would you measure? Do you think that matters within friendship, or what do you think?
It's an interesting one because, look at our background, and 9 times out of 10, and I've seen it and I analyse, your missus is from what you perceive to be a nice family background.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's mad how you've come from a mad background.
Yeah.
And you've gone, and same with me.
Yeah.
My missus is like whole in that sense, where she's come from a mother and father background.
Yeah.
And it's mad how you've chosen that person, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you've so do I think it's important in friendship?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I think my blessing and my curse is I don't judge someone's background. And I never will when it comes to friendship, because I think that's equally how you grow from that kind of, you know what I mean? But I do think that it's important that you are on the same kind of path.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I think regardless if it doesn't have to be career or hobby or whatever, that you just on that same thinking path.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Where you can just kind of soundboard off each other. Like, I've got loads of mates that have come back from a different background, and they might be talking to me about God 1 minute and about something else the next.
Yeah, yeah.
But the fact that they want to get into that conversation, for me, that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So would you say there's certain traits like openness? Like that's obviously openness, because someone's willing to, they might not fully agree with it or understand it, but they're willing to conversate on it.
I love that, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Honesty for me. When I say honesty, I love that fact that you could probably sit down and say, you know what, Wes, I'm struggling with this bad. And you've opened that for me, that's like, yo, I respect that, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than you trying to go on like, yo, I've got it all locked and I'm doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I don't respect that at all, because you're not you can't live like that 24/7, 7 days a week.
No, you can't, because you're living a lie.
You know what I mean? You are in it.
You live in that public persona.
And you're not even, and number one of it, you're not growing. You know what I mean? And for me, no matter what it is, whether it's relationship, friendship, whatever, you're growing. And that's, I need to feel that. If I don't feel like I'm growing, then it's like, for me, it's a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I certainly think. So I don't think that two people need to come from the same background, but I do think that there has to be a meeting of minds somewhere along the line.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So intellectually, they've got to be like, they've got to be on par at least.
Yeah, or willing to. I
Yeah,
think the key word is willing to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, to explore certain things.
Yeah, yeah.
That that will help them grow as long as with you as well. You know what I mean?
So should it be a situation where, like, someone's hard to converse with, or it feels like you have to really make an effort to dig rather than the yes and no answers?
Yeah, I'm sure you've been there where you've probably asked the question and someone has give you like little to no feedback.
Yeah.
And you feel like, wow, I shouldn't even have asked that question. You
Exactly,
know what I mean?
and it feels awkward.
It feels awkward. You know what I mean? And because that person's not willing to explore that.
Yeah.
But if you're with a friend that's willing to explore that and go, actually, well, I kind of see it from this point. It makes all the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That willingness to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that comes with being self-reflected, doesn't it?
I think that's the nail on the head there. But
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to be around people that are self-reflecting. Because if you are, then that's where big growth will come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can draw on each other's experiences and whatnot, without it just being a brick wall. If that's it. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the interesting thing about life as a whole, because you start off, when you're in school, you're happy to just have any friend.
Yeah.
Like when you're on the playground and you're kicking the ball, you're happy just to be with anyone and just not be on your one walking around.
It's true stuff.
And as long as someone accepts you for you and you're playing, then that's cool. That's the only measurement. Can you play good together? But then as you get to teens, something changes and it becomes more about social status, especially at teens, I think. I mean, I don't know about you, but in senior school, it was all about, you focus on the wrong things. Like, you focus on who's the baddest in the year, like who's the most popular. Like, you wouldn't be seen with the geeky kids, a lot of kids. In a certain degree, I wasn't like that with certain kids. In public, I probably was actually in public, but I did speak to the geeky kids private. Yeah.
Was that a social thing?
Yeah, it was a social thing, because I had loads of different circles in school. Like, I knew everybody from older years to younger. Like, I had older kids meeting me at Bottom Gate, like after school, and then at the same time, I spoke to some of the like geeky kids that no one would speak to. Do you get me? Because really deep down, I was a geek myself, but I didn't show it. Do you get me? Like, and you do kind of cover up certain elements. Like, I like to understand people. Even from early, I understood that I like to understand people. But at our age, it was either about being popular, being bad, or sports, wasn't it? That was the three kind of.
I think there's
and girls as well.
Massive. I think that was a peer pressure thing, definitely. But I was a geek, but I was quite popular as well. So,
was you seen as a geek, or was you just a geek inside?
Probably not seen as a geek.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, probably not seen as a geek. But I don't know. Through my teenage years, I think I learned a lot because I left school and everyone went into work. They weren't really bothered about education.
Yeah.
And I had that. I struggled to adapt, thinking it was all about friends because no one followed me to this college. I went on my own.
Yeah.
And I had to basically start again.
Get you.
So that was a hard adjustment for me, and what am I doing? Where's all my friends at? What, you know what I mean?
So you're thrown out of your comfort zone.
100%.
So before that, was it a case of you went to primary school, then a lot of people that went from your primary school to your senior school?
No, not really. Everyone went to a different senior school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you had to do it twice then?
I've had to do, and probably that was the because my mum didn't want to send me to that school because of all my friends going there.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why she sent me to another school.
Yeah.
And
what was it? You there to learn, not make friends?
Yeah. I don't want to. And it's
mad
mad because she went to that school.
Yeah.
So she didn't want me to go there for some reason. So I suppose I don't know if that was mentally in my brain already. So when I left secondary school, then to do it again, it wasn't as bad. I kind of, because I've always been that independent person where if I want to do something, I do it on my own. Whereas my twin sister would need friends around her. Yeah. And she's been like that for a long time. And she's not like that now. Yeah. She's got kids and stuff.
Yeah, because racing's very social, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She's always had a friend, like a main one friend.
Or a best friend, you know what I mean? And I used to go mad at her because, again, my expectation on her.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to say to her, listen, you don't need your friends to always be there to do stuff.
Yeah.
She was bad at one point.
But do you think that's because she's a woman?
Maybe.
Because you two are twins, ain't you?
Yeah.
So you're not like that. And you was growing up in the same household, same kind of upbringing in a way.
I don't know.
And then
maybe that.
Like, it might be just a case of you're both different. But at the same time, racing's quite fiery, isn't she?
Oh, more fiery than me now.
Yeah. That's what
actually, she's always been fiery than me.
Yeah, she's always been like she's always had it in her, like that fight. Like you can tell.
But racing is like she's strong, but she's not strong.
Yeah.
Back then, anyway. You know what I mean?
She shows the hard armor, but she's soft inside.
Yeah. She even not to go to town on her own to go and do something that she has to go and do. She'd need a friend with her. And I said, listen, you don't need to do it. You know, you couldn't do that on your own, and you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think it was hard for me to kind of adapt to that kind of mindset. But eventually, that was who I was always anyway. You know what makes sense?
And then when you got into adulthood, in the sense of like, you know, getting to the workplace. How do you find that in the sense of like, do you think that's when you started thinking, all right, and who is my friends? Who is my circle? Was it that point or was it before that?
Good question. And if I remember getting into the workplace, I just won a scholarship. And I remember this, and I was in the paper, Evening Mail, any little people, and at that time, that was the Subway times. If anyone who went to Subway, and the Thursday nights,
that's the old classic.
And like nobody was really bothered about education or growing. It was all about having a good time. That's one thing I've noticed. And I'm not trying to big up myself. At that point, 17, 18, I was about your future career, what am I going? Whereas a lot of my friends were about going out and having a good time. Which is natural. 17, 18 years, you know what I mean? But there was highly interested in about developing. So there was big questions and that I asked myself, and almost a frustration. Well, why are these people not like me? You know what I mean? Again, throwing my expectations onto a group of people that are, you know what I mean? And I had to learn really hard that people are not going to be there for you, like, you know what I mean? And these people that are here now are not necessarily going to be here in the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So I think that's what I learned, because at the same time I was achieving, and I kind of grew to loving that achieving feeling. Does that make sense? And those little wins ended up, and honestly, it's like a drug. You know, the more successful you become, the more you want to be. You know what I mean?
It's true,
and at that time, I was there's little wins, and I was winning, and I kind of grew to that. I want to win all the time. Does that make sense?
Do you think that winning and success is like escapism as well?
Yeah,
a form of it. It's a positive.
I read something deep the other day. You know, like when someone's really, really independent. They're really independent out of heart. Does that make sense? They've relied on someone in the past, and they've let them down in some way, shape, or form. So they just become really independent person where they don't need to depend on anybody. That's a terrible thing to be. And I think for me at that time, it was about, I need to stand on my own 2 feet. I don't want to rely on nobody. I've got to get this. And that's where it come from. So it was it come from a bad place, but at the time I've seen it as a good thing. I wanted to achieve. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Perfect
sense.
You know what I mean? So I think it was hard to adjust and to see that. It's only now that I've seen it now. Like this independent, and you see a lot of women, and not to call out any. See a lot of, I'm independent. I don't need no man. That's how I've hurt that is.
It is.
A man's let them down in the past.
A lot of the time.
A lot of the time, innit? You know what I mean? So I'm gonna stand on my own 2 feet with my kids, and it's hurt. You know what I mean? And it's recognizing that.
It comes back to that thing of like everyone's life experiences lead to who they are now. Like they've experienced something to make them think that they don't need a man, like the same way some men can do it and think 100%. They don't need a woman.
100%.
Like exactly the same. And it's like there's some burn now, the trust or something, or they've made a move on someone that they honestly feel that they love and have been rejected. So their way of defending is like,
we've all been there, man. It's caught me up. And then often what we do is then we go and find someone else and then don't heal from that process. So then you flip the pain, and it's a deep one, bruv. But back to that friendship thing from 17, 18, I went through a hard time, not just friends, but with family as well. So it kind of cemented. I didn't need friends. Does that make sense? At that time, and it was about me standing on my own 2 feet. You know what I mean? Because I was living on my own at 23 years of age. Now most of my friends at that age were still at home partying. You know what I mean? So I had a different perspective from a lot of people anyway. You know what I mean? So
which makes sense.
It was a tough one to kind of crack, and I'm still cracking it now. Even though my friends now, I'd love everybody to be on board with what I'm doing, but it's not necessarily going to be the way forward, is it? You know?
Exactly.
And it's knowing that, innit?
Exactly. So just before we wrap up, one more question. So in sense of a tip, because we gave quite a few takes on there. So in case of a tip, what would you say is the best way to go about making, if you haven't currently got friends that tick these boxes, what is the best way to go about making new potential friends or finding new potential friends?
I think hobbies and having a hobby and interest is a good one. That's how you can kind of meet new people, because obviously we're at an age where it's not as easy where you can go into a club or social, you know what I mean? So finding a hobby and exploring, to be honest with you, because if you don't know what a good hobby would be for you, then explore. You might have to go through 5 or 6 different activities before you find something that you actually love, and then building friendship from that. And then the other one would be show interest in people. You know, don't be all about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just ask questions, ask if someone's all right, ask how someone's day is, and that's just really simple tips.
Yeah.
And trying to open up a conversation, and next thing you know, you find out that you've got 10 things in common. You know what I mean? Where you probably wouldn't have known that if you never asked the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I probably say that's number one. You know, just
Yeah.
showing interest and you know, not always being about what you're doing or what you think is, you know, the right thing to do. Just ask somebody how they're feeling, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm big on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes sense.
You know what I mean?
And it's true what you're saying. I think one of the other things that I'd add to that is like you don't always have to look for someone that has the similar beliefs or background as you.
Yeah.
And often what I'm finding is a lot of the time you click with people that have something totally different to you. Like, and they're not from your background at all. They might not even be from your country. Like, it might be someone that's from a whole different culture, a whole different religion, a whole different everything.
It's beautiful, man.
And it's like you're learning things about them, they're learning things about you, and then you just click. There's something that just clicks with character types, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
I think character type plays more of a point than anything. Like, you know, when someone's just naturally inquisitive and they're naturally they want to ask questions about things rather than just accept that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I think if you're that way inclined and you like to ask questions and work life out rather than just let life pass you, then you're going to be drawn and attracted to people that are that way inclined as well.
100%.
Yeah, and some people have got it in them, but they don't realize until they meet someone like yourself, and then it comes up in conversation and they realize, actually, you know what, this is what I've been missing. Do you get me? And it might be at the age of 30 plus that they come across and realize, actually, this is the real me. Like, this is who I should be. And I think it comes back to the last episode that we did talking about, do you really know yourself? I think friendship can reveal the real self, like, to yourself, like, really, like,
100%.
because you don't really know yourself until you've been challenged on certain things, until you've had to put your own emotional feelings aside or whatever. It's like marriage, isn't it? It teaches you something the same way friendship teaches you something in life.
Deep lessons, and you've got to be willing to take that in and go, oh, right, cool. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But the thing is, you look at it, we talk about commonalities and stuff. How many of your friends are exactly like you?
None.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yet
similar traits.
Similar traits, but yet we're looking for somebody to be like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to try to take that away and embrace other people.
Yeah.
It's embracing.
100%.
Yeah, embracing
100%.
other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
man.
So today's been a good episode.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Touched on a few things really. So
Covered a lot of ground, really. Yeah.
As again, nice of you inviting me, man.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone enjoyed that. If there's anything that you want to us to dive into more or anything like that, just let us know in the comments and we'll address it on a future episode. But look out for more episodes coming soon. Really enjoyed this one. This one was good.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, so thank you for listening, and don't forget to leave a review and hit that subscribe button and tell somebody else that you feel would be interested in a topic like this, just delving into it. And if you've got anyone that you would like to see on the show as well, just let us know. But yeah, thanks again. Thanks again, Wes.
Next time.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.